Hey there, and welcome back once again on my YouTube channel, where today I'll be creating a special hybrid for what I like to call the Great Hybrid Warfare. You see, around a month ago, a YouTuber by the name of Toxic P decided to mess around with Goji Center, probably because his hybrid submission into their contest Segish ones didn't get mentioned at all, poor fella. And so, he released a hybrid honey badger on steroids to absolutely screw up their Indoraptor 2.0. This hybrid named Murradromeus and Denny, aka the Wendigo Badger, aka Larry. However, during that video, he also set out a bunch of ground rules which he deemed necessary, similar to the Great Hybrid War rules, so that in case you ever decided to challenge the Mortalodon Arthrophagus, your hybrid wouldn't end up in the Hall of Shame. Those rules being: Rule number 1. The hybrid must be designed and optimized for a warfare setting, preferably ground operations. This means that it must be capable of fulfilling a type of fighter class outside of being able to counter Amorphophagus. Rule number 2. Taken from the hybrid wars from both Goji Center and Goji Gai, only real organisms, extant or extinct, are permitted. No fictitious organisms except for JP Universe ones. Rule number 3. In line with the rules of Goji Center's hybrid war, the use of DNA from any of the following genera are banned: Australopithecus, Kenyanthropus, Paranthropus, Ardipithecus, Auroran, Homo, Sahelanthropus, Pilsianthropus, Greekopithecus, Oreopithecus, or Oranopithecus. Basically, no human DNA. Rule number 4. Each largely functional trait must be backed by at least one genetic contributor with the exception of cosmetic traits. Rule number 5. The hybrid's weight must not exceed that of a Willys Jeep, or 1,100 kilograms. Rule number 6. The hybrid's length must not exceed that of the hull of an N1 Abrams tank, 8 meters. Rule number 7. The hybrid's typical stand-in height must not exceed that of a T-14 MR tank, or 3 meters. Rule number 8. The hybrid's wingspan, if it has any wings, must not exceed that of a Northrop F5E Tiger II, or 8.1 meters. Rule number 9. The hybrid must be of your own design or of someone you commissioned, with said commissioned person also to be credited. However, it's also worth mentioning that Toxic P is not the only one, as another YouTuber by the name of Ukrainezilla created their own hybrid, Murradromeus ferrodon, which is basically their take on the Indoraptor 2.0, except that it is Megalania on steroids, with Megalania already being a Komodo dragon on steroids. And while this hybrid isn't necessarily meant to counter the Indoraptor 2.0, it does comply to the rules that Toxic P set out, and it is definitely more than capable of putting up a fight against the Indoraptor 2.0, both in a physical confrontation and in a warfare setting. So I guess it's only fair to count him in as a part of this great hybrid warfare, as well as another creator known by Andrew Schultz, who created its own hybrid, Mortisonicus noctuvenator, as another hybrid to counter the Indoraptor 2.0, also in a physical confrontation and in a warfare setting, just like Murradromeus and Denny. So now that we have introduced the participants of the Great Hybrid Warfare, it's time to move on to this video's hot topic, as today I'll be throwing my hat into the ring and creating a hybrid weapon of war that can absolutely demolish these guys, as well as being a refined animal perfectly built for taking down human targets and such. So ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let's begin this show. As always, starting with the base genome, I've picked Barinosuchus arvelloi, the biggest land predator to ever live after the dinosaurs, which provides the overall body build, which is very robust but still very well built for high-speed chases. In addition to its most valuable asset, which is basically the only piece of fossil evidence we have of this thing, its skull, providing its strong skull that gives my hybrid a very nasty bite, as well as its conical-shaped teeth and forward-facing eyes that give my hybrid binocular vision. After that, I added Caprosuchus saharicus, a distant cousin of Barinosuchus, which adds further augmentations to the skull, such as large brown horns for defense as well as an intimidation display, wider snout for an even stronger bite, and most notably, large tusk-like teeth, which increase the bite effectiveness of my hybrid. However, the most valuable addition that this animal provides is its body build, as it influences my hybrid's body shape, allowing it to become more aquatic instead of purely terrestrial, which will act as a form of bridging when we implement the aquatic adaptations to my hybrid later on. Next up, I'm adding Megantherion YT, which in case you haven't watched my video regarding Pius Venetator, which I recommend you go check it out after this one, is added for the following traits. Augmentations to the Nebo, which allow my hybrid to jump more effectively, its claws, which will now be also implemented on its forelimbs, acting as an effective form of offense as well as providing enhanced climbing capabilities, stronger shoulder and deltoid for stronger striking power with those large forelimbs, and also augmentations to the canines, or in my hybrid's case, its large tusk-like teeth from Caprosukis, making its bites all the more deadly. However, the most important trait this animal adds is its hunting instincts. And I'm not just talking about its hunting tactics such as ambush, but I'm also talking about its habit for hunting humans, with Megantherion YT in particular being the Megantherion species most strongly linked to hunting humans amongst all Megantherion species, which is why I added this animal in the first place. This next genetic additive is taken straight from Toxic Peas, Malavorphis, and Denny. Meet Dolinosaurus glyphodon, an extinct red-toothed shrew from Spain. And this shrew puts the northern short-tailed shrew and really any other shrew in the world to shame, thanks to the fact that it has the highest concentration of iron in its enamel, but not only that, it also has better distribution of said iron, kinda like a vampire bat, which allows it to have iron claws. That's right. This thing is basically Northern Short-tailed Shrew and Vampire Bat combined into one. Not to mention that also boosts my hybrid's immune system as an added perk. Alongside that, I also use Megaraptor Namunhuaiki to further bolster my hybrid's shoulder and deltoid from Megantherion for greater striking power with those forelimbs, as well as hind limb anatomy, large degree of hollow chambers in its bones, air sacs, and colon system to majorly boost my hybrid speed and stamina, and lastly, its dentition, with teeth that are slightly curved and with D-shaped serrations running on the back of those teeth. These, combined with the conical shaped teeth from Baryonysuchus, will give my hybrid a dentition that more or less resembles that of Tyrannosaurus rex. Not to mention that this trait also extends to the tusks, but not to the same degree. The last extinct genetic additive in my hybrid's genome is Indoraptor austromyzi, which you probably know why I'm adding this animal for. That of course being its heightened intelligence and social behavior that grants my hybrid the ability to solve complex problems, coordinate attacks, and hunting packs, as well as a wider jaw gape that allows my hybrid to open its jaws wider. And while it would affect my hybrid's bite force, it would also allow it to sink those large tusk-like teeth in more effectively, exerting their full potential. As well as stronger bones in the presence of hollow chambers within them, allowing it to take a lot of blunt force trauma despite having hollow bones. Not to mention, it also boosts my hybrid sensory capabilities, with larger pupils for better sight at nighttime, as well as greater hearing and a bolstered sense of smell. Moving on from the extinct genetic additives to the extant genetic additives, I'm starting off by the Calabar Burrowing Python, which, again, in case you haven't watched my video regarding Pius Venetator, is added for its skin. That makes it the most well-armored snake in the world. Thanks to its crisscross section of collagen fibers which make up this skin that are 15 times thicker than that of any other snake in the world, which include rattlesnakes, boas, garter snakes, and so on. But the most interesting aspect is that this composition actually resembles that of rhino skin, which, in case you haven't known, rhino skin is somewhat bullet resistant, being able to shrug off small firearms from a distance. This way, my hybrid has lightweight armor that allows it to move with incredible speed and agility while still being capable of withstanding gunfire from a distance, that is, but still bullet resistant nevertheless, while also shrugging off bites and slashes from its opponents like a champ. Not to mention that they also add Jacobson's organ to further boost my hybrid's smelling capabilities. I also added the silverback gorilla, which, shocking absolutely no one, is for those large forelimbs, which include a flexible shoulder that grants it a wide range of motion, fast twitch muscle attachments, which also apply to the hind limbs, for more explosive power with each motion, as well as opposable thumbs for better grappling capabilities and dexterous hands, as well as elongated toes for better climbing capabilities. However, while these guys don't exhibit the same amount of dexterity as some of their other primate cousins such as chimpanzees, bonobos, or orangutans, these guys make up for it with an insanely powerful weapon at their disposal that makes them an absolute menace to any human. Its fists. which, in case you haven't watched Goshi Center's video of 100 men versus 1 gorilla, which I highly recommend you to check it out because it's funny AF, the gorilla has a punching power enough to one-shot a human and turn it into an effing mulch. A sledgy pile of fat, muscle, and bone with a single punch. That's not even to mention their frightening grip strength, estimated between 1100 to 1300 psi, that's strong enough to crack a human skull, as well as tear off its limbs straight from the socket. How lucky are we because these guys are docile in nature? But anyways, moving on, they also add heightened intelligence that allows them to use tools as well as exhibiting social behavior and, the rest, given that they are primates, and primates are already known to be intelligent AF, so I don't really need any introductions in terms of that. So yeah, I figured that would be a pretty solid pick for my hybrid rather than a chimpanzee or bonobo, as that is too classic. Then I added the Belgian Malinois for, again, shocking nobody, it's dog traits that make it man's best friend. It's loyalty, it's obedience, it's intelligence, etc. However, I picked this specific dog breed because it is the most commonly used dog breed in modern warfare, aka police force, military, and such. They also boost my hybrid sensory capabilities in terms of vision, hearing, and smelling, which is why it's a very solid pick in my opinion. Another genetic additive that makes itself present in my hybrid's genome is the Arabian horse, which works very well in tandem with the Belgian Malinois by being the most intelligent horse breed in the world, increasing my hybrid's obedience and loyalty by strengthening the emotional bond it would have with its owner, making it an absolute breeze to train this hybrid. Furthermore, they add major augmentations to my hybrid's anatomy by providing one less lumbar or back vertebrae, as well as one less pair of ribs, larger nostrils, more flexible spine, and stronger bones, as well as cooling system, all of which are contributors that give my hybrid a substantial boost in terms of agility, speed, and stamina, which is why I picked this horse breed. This upcoming gene contributor needs no introduction, as you probably all know it from Goji Center's Mortaldon Arthrophagus. This is a water anole lizard, which provides its simple but very effective disruptive camouflage that allows it to blend in very well with its surroundings, as well as slippery skin that traps air close to the anole, allowing it to move much faster and more gracefully while underwater, while also being able to suck up some of the air via the skin and breathe out carbon dioxide to lengthen its dive, further boosting its stamina underwater. In addition to adhesive toe pads, which will be only mounted on its toes in order to not only enhance its climbing capabilities, but also combined with strong claws, allow it to walk on the bottom floor of every single water body, whether it's a lake or a river or anything in between, before jumping out of the water surface and catching any unlucky human with its devastating jaws or overpowered fists, drowning it or simply taking it out in a single strike. Not to mention that the water anole also provides some powerful sensory capabilities into my hybrids, such as greater color vision as well as better hearing. The saltwater crocodile is also present in my hybrid's genome. This treasure of genetic traits provides a robust crocodilian immune system which consists of section off parts of its bloodstream combined with strong antibodies to shrug off snake venom on a daily basis. B. Predatory hunting instincts which consist of stalking its prey in a stealthy manner before the moment hits and it strikes at absolute maximum speed with its robust jaws, which we'll get to in a sec, that dispatch its prey in a single instant. C. A wide variety of augmentations in terms of the sensory department, which include a major boost to my hybrid's vision and hearing, as well as directional smell, which allows my hybrid to detect which direction its prey or its opponents are, as well as sensory pits spread across the entire body of this animal, which allow it to detect the slightest change in water pressure as well as movement. This way, my hybrid can stalk its prey from the water body floor, leveraging these sensory pits to detect its motion, and when the moment strikes, it will swim at absolute maximum speed thanks to its robust tail, partial webbing, which will also be left at the hind limbs so as to not affect the forelimbs' effectiveness in combat, and also flaps of skin that cover its eyes, ears, and nose during swimming, which also allow it to hold its breath underwater more effectively without water leaking into its lungs or such. And speaking of stamina, it also has great energy efficiency, being able to hunt patiently for days or even weeks without water, without any food, given its strong stomach acid that digests bone into absolute nothingness, allowing it to make the best use of its nutrients, keeping itself well nourished and long enough for it to stock another meal, even if it stays for long periods of time without any nourishment. However, back to the aquatic adaptations, the flaps of skin also have another use which, while not necessarily, like, how do I say this, not necessarily built for defense, they might offer some form of protection against, I don't know, like tear gas or noxious spray or something like that, in case that rings a bell for somebody. Yeah, it's not built for it, but given that these are built to block water out of the pathways, they might offer some form of protection, more or less. Not to mention, they also provide strong neck muscles to further increase the bite effectiveness, although we can't add the jaw muscles because the skull shape of my hybrids is incompatible with that of the saltwater crocodile, but the neck muscles should do us just fine. I also picked the bedded mongoose, given that it further boosts my hybrid's immune system, as well as giving it faster reflexes, as well as encourage it more to hunt in packs, given its heightened intelligence and social behavior. Okay, I swear to God, this is the last genetic additive that I've taken from my previous hybrid Pius Venetator. Meet the Kia Parrot, which, to keep it short and simple, gives my hybrid greater intelligence, further boosting its problem-solving, learning, and tool usage capabilities, as well as giving it a very useful psychological tool in the form of vocal mimicry that would allow it to play mind games with its prey, mimicking its voices and provoking it into attack, making it unrational and reckless during its attacks, giving my hybrids a psychological advantage in terms of combat as well as in hunting. Now we move on to the most important asset in my hybrid's arsenal. Now you probably recall, in case you've watched Toxic P's video of Millivorphus and Denny, that this hybrid possesses a noxious spray from the Great Basin skunk, which acts as a form of biological tear gas. So I've decided that I'm going to be adding something more or less similar to that to my hybrid. And I'm taking this asset straight from my hybrid submission in the Great Hybrid War, Deus Sanguinisaurus, starting with the regal horned lizard, which provides its unique ability to shoot blood out of its eyes. They do so by sectioning off some of the blood in the blood vessels surrounding the eyes, which are then popped thanks to specialized muscles in their skull, which pops the blood vessels and shoots out the blood for a distance of typically 3 feet. However, given that my hybrid is far bigger than the regal horned lizard, this attack would go much farther and would thus be a far more effective ranged attack. In addition, they also aim this weapon with precise accuracy, like they always hit their target. And thanks to that, my hybrid with its forward-facing eyes would be able to aim it pretty much flawlessly, hitting its targets with this blood with killer precision. However, there's also the deadly part of this blood, which comes from the last genetic additive in my hybrid's genome, that being the snowflake moray eel, which provides many benefits, which includes, most and foremost, its toxic blood, thanks to special toxins called ichthyotoxins in their bloodstream, which are dangerous to both mammals and humans. Furthermore, they also boost my hybrid's immune system thanks to stronger antibodies as well as a special mucus that is secreted by their skin through specialized goblet cells. This mucus It works in tandem with the water anole lizard's slippery skin, allowing it to not only slip through tight spaces and crevices underwater and on land much more smoothly, but also protect it even better against attacks such as bites and slashes, and even protect it from pestilent elements such as bacteria, parasites, some toxins, and perhaps even offer some minor protection against the skunk spray from Melivorifes and Denny. Furthermore, while these guys aren't really the safest to handle, given that their mucus can also produce toxins with it, contain toxins with it, called cigatoxins, which can cause vomiting, diarrhea, and some breathing problems, which means that bending this animal requires a form of skill and experience, so as to not get yourself accidentally killed. Luckily for those guys, snowflake moray eels tend to be generally docile and are also highly intelligent, as these guys live in groups and know how to coordinate attacks and do their social behavior and problem-solving skills, which also makes them professional escape artists, as they can find creative ways to escape their aquarium into freedom. So yeah, you definitely have some very big brains behind those sea serpents. Or are they fish? But anyways, another form of intelligence these guys have is that they can actually be petted and can be trained to feed them by hand. And lastly, while they don't have the best eyesight in the world, they do make up for it with an excellent sense of smell that will make up for it greatly, further boosting my hybrid sensory capabilities. And now that I've finally showcased the entire genome of this hybrid, it's time for the grand introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, give a hot applause for my hybrid submission into the great hybrid warfare. Crocodylus canisanguis, name meaning the crocodile bloodhound, codenamed Drago. Height 1.8 meters or 6 feet at the shoulder, length 6 meters or 20 feet, weight 1,050 kilograms. An all-terrain, well-armed and armored unit of a hybrid that can hunt both in packs or all by itself, stealthily stalking its prey in the cover of darkness before striking out of nowhere with devastating jaws, robust forelimbs, powerful claws, and a lethal bloodshot that allow it to attack from both close range and from a distance. Capable of solving complex problems, work its way around different terrain settings, as well as using tools, this hybrid has all the means necessary to chase down its prey till the last breath, with superb stamina and being able to work its way around any obstacle it comes up against. This hybrid will stop at absolutely nothing until its prey and everybody who it hunts is dead, while also demonstrating a high degree of obedience and loyalty to its owners. Loyalty which money cannot buy. And thanks to this, my hybrid is the top tier weapon of war that can only be wielded by the best, only to deliver the best. And that's all for today. Woo! Man, that was an absolute torture, physically and mentally. So please show some appreciation in the comments, and also make sure to like and subscribe for more hybrid content coming soon. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.